Alright, so it is picking me up right now.
Yep, I'm in.
Sweet. Alright, so I'm One Doomed Game Critic.
And I'm Sticky Rick.
Today we are talking about Final Fantasy II. Now, the original release of Final Fantasy II was on December 17th, 1988, directed by Hironobu Sakaguchi. We're playing the PSP port.
Yeah, the PSP port fixes some issues, I've heard, especially with the Ultima Magic.
Yeah, we wanted to play the ideal versions of FF1 and 2, and apparently these are the ideals, so...
I mean, it's the ideal, but would I say it's great? Probably not.
We'll get to that.
We'll get into it.
So FF2, a little history about the game. It came out a year and a day, I think, after FF1.
A year and a day?
And yeah, it's like either a year and a day or a day short of a year.
Wow.
I forget specifics.
It's actually pretty impressive.
Yeah, which, if nothing else, like, it's interesting. And it began development pretty much immediately after Final Fantasy 1 saved Square.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, it's because FF1, well, it wasn't the number one greatest selling thing in the world or anything. It still made a big enough impact in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I think it sold it was expected to sell almost nothing. It sold over 500,000 units.
Yeah.
Which in 1987,
it's a pretty big deal.
Shit. Yeah, so immediately they just said, okay, make another one.
Okay, so that explains the 1 year gap.
Yeah, it explains it, and I suppose this is kind of a struggle that you see with a lot of NES developers back in games who are really starting to get a second wind after Atari and everything failed. But you see a lot with NES sequels where the sequel doesn't really know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So with exception of maybe Mega Man 2, most of them just throw the baby out the bathwater and try to reinvent everything from the ground up with the same name.
They try to make an entirely different game instead of just building on the foundations of the last. And that's pretty much what this did. It's completely different than the first one.
I don't think this is as dramatic as a difference as when you compare it to something like Zelda 2.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
which
definitely.
Is probably the most dramatic version of this, but... when you look at FF2, on the surface, it actually appears extremely similar to FF1. But the devil's really in the details with this one. And I think those details are probably where we'll get into most of the conversation, because...
Yeah. As much as I want to talk about how much I enjoyed the game, there's definitely a lot that I had a lot of issues with.
So, just in the interest of fairness, did you have a biggest pro and a biggest con?
Okay. I really liked the dialogue system where you would learn key phrases. I thought that was incredibly interesting. You could learn key phrases and ask other major characters about them, and they would tell you what they know. And sometimes you could get some pretty interesting information out of some characters you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, I actually really like that too. Apparently, this is a problem some people have with the game, and I completely disagree with that. It's a very obvious system. I never ran into a wall where I didn't have an idea of where to go because, I didn't ask this one NPC this one term.
Well, there are some issues that I have with it, especially the not getting the blood sword.
Okay,
but
well,
that was my fault.
Not getting the blood sword is... That's mostly just an optional thing. Yeah. For the main quest, I think it's very straightforward.
Yeah, for the main quest, it was totally fine. It was just this extra weapon that I was told about that I was kind of bummed I missed.
Yeah, well, to be fair, a lot of that's also the problem. You have to go back to Paul. And I'm why the fuck would I go back to Paul?
Not only that, but you have to go to the Dragoons. Or no, it's not... You have to talk to the Dragoons, and then you have to talk to Scott. And then Scott has to teach you... Or wait, no, is it Scott? No, it's Gordon. Gordon teaches you the Dragoon word.
It's either Gordon or the princess, for her name.
Hilda.
Hilda, thank you.
Scott's the one who dies in the very beginning. Gordon's his brother. Gordon teaches you the Dragoon word, and then you tell Paul Dragoon, and then he's like, oh, here, take my sword. And that was the only thing I didn't like. I missed out on some vocab words.
Actually, I don't think... that's actually not how I got Bloodsword.
Oh, you got it? Damn.
I got the Bloodsword. How I got it was apparently what you have... Because I remember, like, when I did see Paul, it was after the Cyclone bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's going on and on about, oh, the Cyclone scares the shit out of me, bro. And when I learned the phrase Cyclone from Hilda, I just went back to him and said, yo, Cyclone. And he said, oh, okay, go in here.
Wait,
and
really?
There's just a treasure room. Yeah, there's a treasure room, and in that treasure room, lo and behold, is a Bloodsword.
You're telling me I could have gotten the Bloodsword in my game?
Yeah, I guess it just wasn't there.
God damn it.
I guess I wasn't there. But it's, I guess there's, we try to go in blind for these, so if we're wrong, then just let us know, but I guess there's multiple ways to get the Bloodsword.
Okay, because I was told that you had to talk to him about the Dragoons, and then he would give you the Bloodsword, but the Dragoon was just a word I never learned, so I couldn't ask him about it.
I just told him about the Cyclone, and he's like, hey, buddy, go in my treasure room.
Huh.
It's like, okay, thanks.
Damn.
Yeah, there's tons of, like, gold hairpins, good armor set, and then there's a Bloodsword.
Huh. Okay.
And the Bloodsword makes the final boss a fucking joke.
The Bloodsword is insane. Which is why I'm sad I missed it.
But yeah, biggest con, you got one?
Well, my biggest con is the battle and leveling system.
I think that's gonna be
it's gonna be its own section. I don't think we can get into it right now. Like,
I'll tell you straight up, that's my biggest con too. So same boat.
Yeah, it's my biggest issue with it was just the fact that you have to make your characters specialize in one thing. You can't switch your strategy, or else it's a huge detriment.
Yeah, because that's actually we'll get to in the gameplay section, but the fact that it's this weird mix of being open and being customizable, but being insanely rigid.
Yeah, I mean, you can make your guys do whatever you want, but if you ever change your mind, then you're fucked, because now they're incredibly weak in the new style that you want to make them fight in, and you have to grind for hours to make sure they're viable for the next fight.
At least 3 hours.
At the least 3 hours. And it's like, you could make them use any weapon you wanted, but why would you not make them use the weapon they started with? Like, Furion starts with swords, Guy starts with axes. Why would you ever change their weapons? Because the more you fight with a weapon, the better you get with it.
Yeah, it's like Maria starts with bows, so just have her in the back row, give her most of the offensive spells.
Yeah, yeah.
And give her a good bow. There you go.
And that's the whole game.
So it's insanely rigid. Well, yeah, you have the ability to change your character's class around. If you don't do a specific run from moment one with specific stats in mind, you're going to have a very bad time trying to play on the fly.
Yeah, if you want to switch your weapons, it's going to be very painful. It's going to hurt very badly.
So biggest pro is definitely, this is honestly a bit of a hard one. I guess I would have to say the story, I guess. I kind of admire how, it's very quaint, it's very cute. It's just a little three little heroes, occasionally a fourth guy going on an adventure to beat up the Emperor, who's a dickhead. But again, considering this came out in 1988, like, what other video game stories were going on?
I mean, there was Dragon Quest, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't seem like there's much in the way of competition, which makes it really fun when you see something like this, where obviously it's very limited, it's very simple, but it is narrative heavy, and there's a fair bit of characters that are named, that have some personality, etc.
There's, what is it? There's about, like, 8 to 10 major characters in the story, which is quite a bit, especially for such an old game.
Yeah, it's like there's even twists, and there's some hint at villain motivation, which we'll get to when we talk about the story itself. But
yeah, with the twist with Leon was very interesting because what other game did that at the time? I mean, sure,
exactly.
like we've seen it in other games recently, or I wouldn't say recently, but in more recent times. But was there any other game before this one that did it? I don't think so.
I mean, there was one piece of media that did it first, but we'll touch on that.
Well, not a game, but
I guess waste no bones about it. Let's get to the real meat of this shit.
Yeah.
Gameplay.
Definitely.
But yeah, like I think starting with gameplay is definitely the kind of way to go.
Gameplay. All right. So the combat is pretty much the same from I say it's pretty much the same, but at the same time now everybody can learn magic. So now all of your characters have more options in battle.
Yeah, so it's like FF2 is a weird example where on the surface it's not that different. In fact, in a lot of ways it improves on FF1. It has more customization with how every character can learn spells. Theoretically, every character can use any kind of weapon or armor. So on the surface, it's actually better. And on the surface, it's the same thing, but with a new addition, streamlining certain aspects. But then you get into the real shit. The big thing.
The big issue where your stats only go up if you use them in combat.
Now, a lot of people, I think people kind of overblow the issue, saying it's game breaking. It's the worst.
They definitely put it on blast and say it ruins the game. It really doesn't. It's just kind of annoying until you realize how to use it.
See, I wouldn't say it entirely ruins the game. I think it can, though.
Yeah, definitely.
It was during your stream that I think kind of highlighted it, where you get to the final boss pretty smoothly overall.
Yeah, everything was fine until I realized I didn't grind Flare in Ultima, and now Guy and Leon are healing the boss every time they get attacked, and they're a detriment to my party.
Yeah, it's just you just realize to the last minute, the entire foundation of this game is broken. And then you start putting the pieces together and start realizing, hold on now.
The whole game was fucked. How did I not notice this sooner?
Yeah. And I was actually fortunate to learn this sooner when I tried to do a pure melee build, like a orangutan that I am. And when I got to the snow cave and I had to learn magic for certain bosses because holy shit, I could not do any damage to Adamantois. Then I just kind of realized, yeah, he's a strong boy. But the second I realized, okay, I'll just restart. All right, get some magic going for at least one character, get offensive stuff going, and I was good. So at the very least, I learned early that while it was going to be a bit of a grind, I could respect my characters in a specific way for specific situations. So, again, it's not the worst system, but
it's just annoying.
It's not the worst, but it's worse than the standard EXP.
It's definitely worse than just gaining levels normally.
It's like the simplicity of FF1, where I can choose a class at the very beginning.
And you know exactly what they're going to do.
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest issue, where even in FF1, if you didn't know what they were going to do when you first start the game, you can pick it at the very beginning and have essentially zero punishment for trying them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can just spend a little bit getting spells, fighting goblins around starting town. So you get that practice.
You get to
Whereas
understand.
in FF2, it's a lot more nuanced in how the system works, and if you don't have the understanding of it, well, good luck, buddy.
You're gonna smash your head against that brick wall over and over again. And I mean, sure, you'll be able to win eventually, but it's annoying that you'd have to stop, change your entire strategy, and then grind out levels for this new spell or this new weapon that you've used on your new character to get past this one obstacle. Because I had the same problem. I didn't go melee. I went full teleport. I used teleport on everything because bosses are weak to it. Or they're vulnerable to it, at least. And so I spammed teleport on everything I saw until I got to the Lost Soul, because he absorbs it. And by then, I was so outclassed in melee that I was having real issues trying to beat him. He doesn't even have that much HP. He has like 500 HP, but my characters are only doing 50 damage per hit. So it was very frustrating.
I think you said this during the stream, is that it's the kind of system that's perfectly fine until the moment it's not.
It's a fine game until the moment it's not, and then it's bad.
Yeah, and then the second you realize, hey, this doesn't work anymore, you start to retroactively look back on the system and realize, oh, I just kind of got fortunate that it didn't fuck me earlier.
Yeah, it's never been a good system, and I just got lucky that I was working the right way the whole time.
Yeah, because that's another thing in FF2 is that there's very specific angles to victory where if you follow it, you're never going to have any problems until very specific moments.
Mm-hmm.
Where you said teleport earlier, just matter magic in general.
Yeah.
So busted in this game.
Teleport, warp, and toad are insanely good because they're all instant kills and barely anything resists it or even absorbs it. There's 2 bosses, Lost Soul and the Emperor, the final boss.
Yeah, like final Emperor. Here's the thing, final Emperor.
Yeah, not even the
standard
the human.
Emperor? You can teleport him. I did
it. I didn't do it because I figured I should give him at least the respect of being defeated. But
fuck that.
I didn't even think you could teleport him. But yeah, it's like, I didn't even know the human Emperor was vulnerable to teleport. But I guess he is. But yeah, it's just Lost Soul and the final Emperor. They absorb it.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, 2
enemies.
Like, I saw a couple enemies that had really high magic resist. Like, I think the vampire girls I had a hard time teleporting.
That's definitely true. That was around the time that I was just I'd given up on using teleport and I was just using regular fire magic.
Well, yeah, because that's the thing, is that you get fire at the very beginning of the game, and I gave that to Furion.
Mm-hmm.
So Furion's magic was like fire magic and cure.
Oh yeah.
So he had fire 10 by around very early in the game. And I was just fucking roasting everything. If I could not teleport you, I would burn you.
I mean, that's just how I played too. It was, well, by the end of the game, I figured I should stop leveling teleport because I was sure that the final boss was going to be immune to it. So I was like, well, I guess I should just level my other magic instead. And it was very slow going from that point on.
Yeah, I did about a 3-hour grind to get Ultima from level 1 to level 10 for the final boss, and it still wasn't even that good.
Yeah, Ultima was kind of shit. It was bad even until Soul of Rebirth.
I didn't play Soul of Rebirth. I don't want to play Soul of Rebirth.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
No, thank you. No fucking thank you.
I mean, personally, I thought it was better than the actual main game, but I don't blame you.
Oh, shit.
I don't blame you for not going into it, because it is a long grind.
Yeah, it's like, if I could just avoid the grind, thank you. I get it has a custom new final boss. That's cool, but no, I'm good. Thanks.
But that was my issue. Teleport is busted until it's not busted, and then you're fucked.
Yeah, so I think one of the ways that I would fix the leveling system, if I could, would boil down to give you less things to level. Because really think of the amount of shit that you gotta level up in this game.
There's what, 8 weapons?
Yeah, it's like there's individual character stats. You have like, I think it's either 8 or 6 weapon types.
Mm-hmm. Let me see.
So you have to level.
There's 6 stats for each character. There's 8 weapon types, including a shield. And then there's 16 spells that each character can learn, and everything has its own individual levels.
Yeah, every spell has its own individual levels, and the only way to get better MP and better ability to use magic is to spam magic. So you have to grind for spirit, you have to grind for mind, or what have you.
You have to grind for your buffs, too, or else they just miss.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, haste, I could not use until, like, haste 3. Yep. It just would not work until then.
All of my buff spells did not work until they were level 3 to 5.
It's... What I would do is I would simplify that immediately. It's, okay, so how about, one, get rid of, like, individual like weapon leveling. So it's like instead of 8, just say fuck it. Use a weapon. You're good with a weapon. There you go.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing for me though is the magic. Like even the weapon stuff, I didn't find it to be that big of an issue compared to the magic.
Yeah, I mean, because with weapons, you just stick with one. As soon as you decide what everybody's going to use, you just stick with it. There's no need to change it.
Yeah. So what I would rather have is for magic, where instead of individual spells, have it be types. Like either, if you want to go as broad as possible, say a white magic level and a black magic level.
Yeah.
Or for the specific uses, like matter, body, mind.
Oh, yeah.
And say, like, those 3 skills individually for the character's magic potential will level up. But the spell itself will only ever have the 1 level.
Okay.
So you can mix and match different kinds of matter, mind, or body.
Yeah.
But you still had to use them to get that experience to level that path specifically.
That makes sense. Because,
So, yeah.
I would split it with attacking magic and... Well, it's more than just black magic and white magic, but, like, buff magic, healing magic, attack magic, stuff like that.
Yeah, like, just, I'd say simplify it to that, so by the time you get Flare at the end of the game, Flare is at the secret, again, you get Flare from the secret shop, but...
You get Flare in, like, the last 5 hours of the game, 5 to 10 hours, and by that point...
I think you get Flare in the last hour.
Last hour?
It's right before Pandemonium.
It's definitely right before the end, but,
I think it's like 2 rooms before you enter Pandemonium.
Oh, seriously?
For the first time. Yeah, so it's right at the very end.
Yeah, that's right at the end. That's in the Jade Passage, isn't it? Right, the waterfall salesman.
Yeah, it's right there. And it's like, even with including in Pandemonium the 4th floor bullshit, which is probably the biggest time waster in that dungeon. It's still like, okay, you have at most an hour to go.
Yeah, and when you get Flare, it's said to be an incredibly powerful spell, but at that point, when you use it, it does like 50 damage because it's level 1.
Yeah, it's like, why would I not use Fire 10 that I have right here?
Because the final boss resists fire. I don't know.
That could be fixed. That could easily be fixed if what you did instead was have Flare be a specific type of magic in tune with stuff like fire or thunder or whatever.
Yeah, because they're all attacking magic, and it would just make sense, because then you just get a stronger version of these spells that is a natural progression into the next big thing.
Yeah, and you just give Flare to whoever you use primarily for attacking spells, and there you go. You have a really good spell for the final area.
Yeah, and in the game right now, it's just you get Flare, does nothing.
Yeah, so it's like, that's just one example, but at least the biggest issue of Final Fantasy II's progression is, why would I not just use the starting equipment?
That's my biggest issue.
Like, just specifically for spells. For weapons, it's not actually that big of an issue. I think it's not great, but it's fine. It's a fine system.
Well,
for spells, it just breaks.
Yeah, because the thing is, what we're discussing here with the magic is literally already in place with the weapons, because you get sword proficiency, but you get better swords. So what's the problem? Why can't we just do this with magic instead?
Yeah, if you just simplified it to be exactly like that, it would fix it. Like, honestly, I would go as far as say it would fix the vast majority of people's problems with this game.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it wouldn't fix the stat issues, but that's just
it would at least be manageable.
Yeah.
Like, it would just be an awkward learning curve for an otherwise not great but passable, tolerable system, as opposed to an entirely broken one.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest issue with it, where you get to the point where I have fire and I have teleport or warp at the very beginning of the game, blizzard, thunder. Why would I level those up? Why would I get rid of any of those? Because from moment one, they are fantastic.
Yep, from the very beginning, they're great. Why would I ever stop using them in favor of Flare or Ultima? There's no reason to do it.
And I remember talking with someone else who I won't say their name, obviously, for privacy, but it's one of the people that we speak with.
Okay.
They were saying, oh, just use Toad. Use Toad. And I'm like, why would I ever use Toad? Because I'd have to regrind Toad. You only get that towards after the second half of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I've been using Teleport from the first hour.
In fact, in my streams, I switched to using Toad, and then I died without saving. I got Toad to level 5 on most of my characters, and then I died without saving, and I lost all of those levels. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just using Teleport. Toad's not worth it.
Because it's the same
It's
thing.
literally the same type of magic. Why would I nerf myself by using a level 1 version of the spell that I already have?
Exactly. So that's what breaks the system, where the only way I could see it working as is right now is if they gave you, from the very beginning of the game, a theoretical access to every single spell, weapon, armor, shield, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
If they gave you that access to it, through exploration, through sequence breaking, where maybe it isn't easy to get it, but it is theoretically possible.
You could get
would fix.
Yeah, you could get these instant kill spells. It would fix every issue, because then you wouldn't have to grind them up at the end of the game. Because at that point, it doesn't feel rewarding to grind up an instant kill spell when you've been using one the entire game.
Yeah, and it's I think imagine if you could get Ultima from moment one, theoretically.
Then it would actually be good.
Yeah, it's you could make a character from moment one designed just for Ultima, and it would be good.
Mm-hmm.
And that would actually, because I know people who defend FF2 defend its customization this way. And that's why I thoroughly disagree with that argument. Because, frankly, there is not customization, because you are basically gridlocked into using the early game weapons unless you want to grind out every individual thing you receive.
Yeah, unless you want to go off on your own and grind up this thing, there's no point. I even mentioned it in my streams in the beginning. I was like, should I just give everybody, one of every weapon to grind up their levels? And then I realized it doesn't matter. I would just be wasting my own time trying to do that. I should just stick with one weapon.
This is an 18 to 20 hour game, roughly, give or take?
Yeah, about that.
And if you did that, this would be a 30, 35 hour game.
Mm-hmm. I've just highlighted all of my video footage. It's about 26 hours, about 27 hours actually.
Yeah, so it's not including mandatory grinding, which is, at least in my opinion, that's some of the bigger time sinks. Yeah, when you include that grinding, suddenly that hour count's going up.
Yeah.
If you don't include the grinding, it's probably closer to a 20, maybe even a 15 hour game if you know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But because you have to include that grinding, suddenly the hour count's going up to almost 30.
Yeah, because it was my second stream. I stopped for about, I think, an hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe even 2.5 hours to grind up the teleport that I needed to carry me through the rest of the game.
Yeah, and then you try to grind up fucking Ultima.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. And then Ultima, I guess I should clarify, Ultima Magic increases its power based on its own level, plus all of the levels of white magic that character has learned as well. So,
Yeah. So have fun.
You gotta grind up Ultima, and then you gotta grind up all your white magic as well.
The best part is like trying to get a character that load of white magic, because one of the most obvious ones to give is life.
Mm-hmm.
So
Life
the
and,
dominant strategy.
cure.
Yeah, it's like, so the dominant strategy is to specifically kill your party members so you can give them life and boost life.
Yup. Well, actually, one of the strategies was killing your party members to increase their defense, or attacking them while they have blink status to increase their agility.
Another one I saw is put 2 shields on them and make them attack with the shields to increase their evasion.
Yup. That's one of them I saw.
It's fucking goofy. It's fucking goofy, man.
It's like, that's not fun. Who wants to do that? Who wants to play a game where you have to do that?
It's like, what's wrong with just picking my characters at the very beginning of FF1, steamrolling forward, and what comes,
Mm-hmm.
and as I get a level, that character's general ability just gets better.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Absolutely nothing.
I know it's dirt simple, but I will take that dirt simplicity over a lot of FF2 systems, because
sometimes simplicity is better, right?
Which sucks, because I'm usually kind of the weird advocate for games going in weird new directions. I tend to defend that, but then you get to FF2 and it's trying to fix the system that wasn't necessarily broken.
Like, I can see the creativity behind it, and I can appreciate it for that, but I will definitely agree, it's not fun to play. It's not a fun concept to work with.
And I think that's definitely the biggest issue, where people have been saying for years, and one of the 2 things I heard about FF2, aside from being bad, is that it's hard.
Oh, really? I guess that's true. I heard that too.
Things. Yeah, it's like, I would always hear like, oh, FF2 is so hard and so bad, and that's all I know about it.
Game wasn't really that hard.
In fact, it was really easy. It was you steamroll it once you realize that matter breaks the game. You steamroll.
Yeah, you just use teleport.
And really, that's the biggest issue with FF2's challenge, is that its entire difficulty balance boils down to just needing to fiddle around with really finicky systems.
Mm-hmm.
Once you understand how to fiddle around with that system, you're golden. It's just the growing pains of getting to that point.
Yeah.
Which I guess you could say for any game, true, but you don't have to do as much nonsensical nonsense as you do in FF2. And a lot of just time wasting.
Usually in other games, when you figure out the system, you don't truly break it like in this game. Because
yeah, it's like, I'm not even doing an exploit. I'm using a starting game spell.
I'm using the spell as it's intended. It's just every boss is vulnerable to it.
Yeah, it's like every boss,
literally
every
boss can be destroyed by teleport, except for 2.
Yeah,
just
great.
2.
I think Red Soul or Lost Soul or whatever, and the final Emperor in Hell are the only bosses I fought legit in the entire game.
Yep, same here. Every other boss, I just started every round with everybody queuing up teleport.
And it's like, okay, why would I not use this?
Yeah, and at that point, teleport's level 8, level 10, level 12, and they're gone. Battle's over.
Yes, and that's really the bad shit about FF2, where there's not a lot to talk about it gameplay-wise, because it's so dirt simple and so...
It's complex, yet insanely simple.
Yes, I think that's the weird aspect of it, where I guess we could talk about stuff like the word system, but we kind of already said everything that needs to be said about it.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing that comes up is the Arcane Labyrinth, which I don't want to go into because the Arcane Labyrinth fucking sucked.
I went once, I didn't bother ever again.
I did all of them, and let me tell you, don't do it. It's not worth it.
I did the first one by Snowfall or Salamander or whatever the hell name is, and I said, I think I'm good.
One of them is like, I think it's like 15 floors. It was insane. I was in there for like 5 hours.
God damn, that sucks.
By the end, I'd completely lost my mind. I'll have to link you the stream with the time code.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that because I have no desire.
I'm gonna send you all my footage anyway. I'll just tell you which one it was.
Oh yeah, exactly. Because like how you get it anyway, so fair enough.
Oh, I think I just disconnected again.
Ah, shit.
Oh wait, no, I didn't. Okay, I just heard like a loud spark from your side, so I figured.
Okay, I was moving my mic, so I could have.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Because usually, sometimes, I say usually, but this doesn't happen very often. But sometimes my headphones will spark and like have a huge burst of sound, and then there's no sound forever until I reset my computer.
Well, shit.
Just another case of the demons.
You gotta exercise it, I'm telling you. Just like I'll just get a little water gun, a little holy water. Just shoot it. It'll be fine.
Just shoot it. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
But yeah, the Arcane Labyrinth, it sucks. I don't want to talk about it. It was a bad time.
Yeah, anything else to say about the actual gameplay part of FF2?
Okay. We discussed the stats, the magic, the weapons. We've briefly discussed the enemies as much as we need to. 2 bosses are immune to matter. Yeah, I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, so now it's just what brief stuff there is about the game's story.
Mm-hmm. Well, the story is actually pretty long. Well, not really long, it's just there's a lot of things that happen of varying consequence, I should say.
I do kind of appreciate how... Well, one, this is the first FF that really, really dedicated itself to narrative above all else.
Okay.
To where it's like, it really does seem like, you know, almost in a weird way, the story is the focus of the game.
I would think so. Because they barely do anything to explain the combat.
Yeah, it's like, you get a tutorial room, and they're like, just fucking read that if you want, loser.
Yeah, exactly. You get the wise old men in the starting room, and that's it. That's all the explanation you get. But the story is really seems like the main focus, because they're talking to you as soon as you get control of your character.
Yeah, it's like, hey, go on this quest. And before you even learn any battle mechanics, really, outside of that battle you have to lose.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're learning the talk mechanic.
Oh, right, yeah, that's true. I was checking out my footage.
That's the first thing you really learn.
The first thing that Hilda teaches you is how to learn key phrases and talk to other people with them.
Yeah, so it's like, clearly that actually is more the focus this time around, which, fair enough, that's cool.
Speaking of that, I don't think I've ever seen a game use a concept like that, of learning key phrases manually like that and having to manually ask other characters about them. I've never seen that before, and I thought that was really interesting.
I can't think of anything specifically like this. The closest I can think of, and this is going to be a really weird stretch, is how in LA Noire you'd specifically get like clue props to use in an interrogation.
That's true. It did feel kind of like a detective game sometimes.
Like, that's really and again, that's a huge stretch. That's the only comparison I can think of off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it really did feel like you were grilling the person for information.
Yeah, like, I think Rickard is probably, or Richard is however you pronounce his name. That's the one that immediately comes to mind, where he will keep just shutting down almost every bit of dialogue.
Yeah, until you ask him about
until you get that actual, with the glass rod or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And then he explains himself as... That was in the Leviathan, correct? Yeah. He explains as he was sent out as a party to find it. But the Leviathan, why did that even come up in the story? Your ship got eaten, right? It was the Leviathan was a protective creature for the glass rod, and it ate your ship. But
and I guess no one else left.
I guess that's it.
Did those guys in Leviathan escape?
No, it was just Ricard.
Okay, well, we just left him for dead, I guess.
You just left him there. I even made a joke about it when I was playing. I was like, oh, so we're just going to leave those guys? That's chill.
Fuck those guys.
They couldn't beat the ringworm. It's fine. Or the roundworm.
They're weak. They don't deserve it.
I mean, they established a little town in there. Like, they seem to be doing fine.
Comfy. This is just a new life for them. Just let them be.
They've adapted. But yeah, the story, it seems like a lot happens, but it's really just it's rocketing off at insane speed. It seems like it's so much happens in such a short amount of time, but then like it slows to a crawl so you can grind out those levels that you need for the next area.
Yeah, it's like characters come and go. They commit sacrifices to save the group.
Oh, right, yeah.
That's why
we should talk about the guest party characters.
I think that's actually more evidence for me that the gameplay was secondary to the story this time around, because that does not feel like a good game system. It's kind of frustrating to deal with.
Yeah.
But from a narrative point of view,
it's pretty cool.
That's really cool.
Because you get Minwoo first off, and he teaches you all about magic since he's got level 8 in pretty much every white magic spell. But and then he leaves the party, and now you just feel a lot weaker because you've gotten used to having that fourth character, and now you've just got 3 again. And it just, those moments where I was missing a fourth character, I just felt so weak, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that doesn't feel like a good gameplay decision, but from a story perspective, it feels pretty great because those moments where you're back to 3 people and feeling weak is usually when you've suffered a major blow from the Empire, and you should feel weak, like, gameplay and story-wise.
Yeah, so it's trying to put you in the actual Wild Rose shoes, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But it does not feel like it was thought of as a game mechanic.
Yeah.
Especially by the very end, when you get Leon finally as a party member, and he's just pathetic compared to everyone else.
He's got, like, level 5 sword efficiency and no magic. Like, cool.
And no health.
I'm supposed to take on the final boss with you in my party? I don't think so.
Yeah, so it's like, get grinding, motherfucker.
It doesn't make sense with Leon.
It's also pretty interesting how the story itself has actual characters this time around compared to FF1.
Oh, right.
Which had, like, Garland.
I figured we should talk about the changes from Final Fantasy 1 to Final Fantasy 2 after we were done with this game, but we should talk about it now since Final Fantasy 1 basically had no story.
Yeah. Like, that's probably the biggest change I've noticed, where this game... Well, this introduced a lot of the aspects that would just become pretty commonplace in FF. It's the first really narrative-heavy one, and since about FF4 onward, they've all been very story-heavy games.
Okay.
You have the Chocobos that were introduced.
Oh, yep.
The entire system.
Chocobo Forest. The one Chocobo Forest in the game.
Yeah.
But, I mean, at least it's there.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier, before we started, Sid is in the game now.
Yeah, he's an actual character now.
Because there was a Sid in the first game, but he was like an inconsequential dwarf who really didn't do a whole lot. He hinted at there being an airship, but he really didn't have any plot significance at all. But in this game, Sid is a major character who has an airship, and he ferries you around for money, and even joins. Well, he doesn't join the party, but he does fly, or he flies you out of the dreadnought after you destroy it.
Which, Sid's basically Han Solo here, right? I mean, he's kind of like an old man.
Yeah.
But I think that just lies into probably the biggest narrative thing at FF2 is that this game is just Star Wars.
It's basically Star Wars, yeah. There's the Emperor versus the Rebels, and
you got the Dark Knight, who is Darth Vader.
Yep.
You got the Dreadnought, which is the Death Star. Mm-hmm. You have the Cyclone, which is the second Death Star in Return of the Jedi.
Yep. You have Ultima Magic, which is pretty much just the Force.
It's this is straight up just Star Wars.
Yeah, and I mean, sure, we've seen there have been games that have kind of ripped off Star Wars that I've seen, but this is probably the first one I've seen that's done it since this game came out in 1988. So this was probably like the first one that ever did a narrative story like this.
Yeah, it's like, even with Neon, like, it's straight up even a very similar twist where the evil stooge, the Emperor, is actually related to one of the main characters. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh.
Which is a twist that happens in many other games that I've played, but this is probably the first time it's ever happened.
Yeah.
In a video game, anyway.
I mean, and I will say another thing about FF2's story is that, at the very least, the characters do have some traits. Like, they have little moments.
Oh, yeah. They all have, like, they have unique character distinctions between each other.
Yeah, like, Furion is kind of like a bog standard hero, but he's really awkward around chicks.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
When the Namia Queen, in disguise of Hilda, starts coming on to him, he's like,
he doesn't know what to do. He does the same thing with the pirate girl. I forgot her name.
Yeah, Layla.
What was her name?
Layla.
I think it was Layla, yeah. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, so he's kind of awkward around chicks like that. Mm-hmm. You have Maria, who's really hell-bent on just getting her brother back, and will blow off a lot of other stuff.
She cares about her family a lot, and, I mean, she's kind of standard, but, she doesn't have any interesting quirks, but, she cares about her family, and she wants to get him back, and that's all she cares about. And then
you got
Guy's
who's like,
Guy's a Neanderthal.
he's Chewbacca.
Yeah, actually, he really is.
He does speak Beaver though.
Yep.
So that's something, I guess.
He speaks Beaver. I know in one of the light novels, it's explained as him speaking monster. So
wait a minute.
That's interesting.
He can talk to the monsters?
Well, it was only in the book.
Oh, hold up. That would change everything.
But that would be great if you could talk to the monsters.
You could talk to all these monsters, and you just
he chose not to
kill them. You chose to kill them anyway.
Well, Guy's not very smart, so...
Well, Guy, I think there's a line between not being very smart and being a psychopath.
And then Leon...
Some of those are just wild animals, bro.
Well, it was a leg eater. It was eating my leg.
Some of those are just animals, Guy. Like, you gotta chill, buddy.
And the other guys...
Is Guy the bad?
Is Guy the bad guy?
Is he the baddie?
Guy was just his last name. First name, Bad.
Fucking bad guy. Soul bad guy over here.
I'll have to read those novels at some point. I think there's 2 of them.
Honestly, that might be fun for just, like, FF-related media is a thing. Where it's like we talk about bullshit like that.
Let me see. There's books. Okay. Yeah, it looks like there's 3, actually.
Goddamn.
So. And they're all in Japanese.
Oh. Well, shit.
Maybe some other time. Oh, this one's just an art book. Okay. Maybe another time. Maybe next year.
Well, I mean, I know there's the FF5 movie.
Oh, right, yeah. We're gonna...
Because that has subtitles.
We're gonna have to watch that one. We're also gonna have to watch all the Final Fantasy VII movies.
Fuck. But I suppose the only thing about narrative significance in the story that's really left to talk about, because the Emperor's not really a character at all.
No, yeah.
He's just kinda, I'm the Emperor.
He's some guy who shows up, says he's the Emperor, he gets fucking owned, and then he comes back from hell, or rather the evil side of him comes back from hell, and then you kill the light side of him in Soul of Rebirth.
Really?
Well, he's still evil.
So okay, well, fair enough.
He's still evil.
But the only thing about interesting for a character thing that is at least worth talking about, I think, was Leon. Because the way Leon is a traitor, I found is actually kind of interesting for an NES game that's pretty early in terms of in-game stories. Because he wasn't brainwashed.
Oh, really? Okay.
He was not. Like, if you read his dialogue again, like, everything he's saying is just saying
it's like, just okay, how he was. Yeah,
he was the kind of person when, because I think the backstory, at least from the FMV, is that all 4 of these guys were living in the same village. Mm-hmm. Then the Empire showed up one day and said, "Fuck you."
Yeah, yeah.
And they killed all their family and friends.
It says in the beginning, in the intro, it says their parents were killed in the attack.
Yeah, so what you have is like 4 characters from the exact same situation and everything, where one of them actually just went in a complete opposite direction, where he joined the Empire because what he saw was, at least from the dialogue we get, where he talks about, you rebels rising up is resulting in more deaths.
Mm-hmm. He was enticed by the dark side.
Yeah, like he saw it as like not even as a power thing, even though he takes over and kind of throws that argument out the window, but he saw it as like a security thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Where it's like, okay, everyone I know is dead outside of you guys, and now you're working for the people who are fighting the war on the opposite side. You guys are resulting in more people getting killed.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why did you even rise up? Why didn't you just accept it?
Yeah.
And then we wouldn't have to kill you.
That's the way he sees it. Like, yeah, just accept defeat and end the war. Like, just end the war. Finish the fight, please. Yeah. Just don't fight back.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we live under the Empire, sure, but
at least we're not dead.
Alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's alive still. And by rebelling, all you're doing is leading to the bloodshed and leading to the conflict.
Mm-hmm. And that's why he leaves at the end of the game. Maria begs him to stay, but Firon's like, no, we can't get along after this.
And yeah, it's like, fair enough. Like, he doesn't belong in this kind of setting.
Yeah.
Well, one, he is a bit of a traitor, but
he was a traitor. He doesn't fit their way of thinking. He doesn't belong in their world, so he has to leave.
And honestly, for an NES game, that's shockingly interesting for characterization.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, obviously, it's very bare bones. It's only a couple scenes, but
still, there was no other game doing something like that. Games back then were just like, they didn't really tell deep, complex stories like this.
Yeah, it's like in fucking Mario Brothers, you don't have Bowser having a legit motivation for kidnapping Princess Toadstool all the time.
No, yeah, he just wants to take over.
He does it because he's Bowser, and he's got to be the bad guy. Whereas, like, with Leon, I found it kind of interesting that he had a character who actually had motivation.
Mm-hmm. He had a reason to side with the Empire the way he did.
Yeah, it's like, sure, yeah, he's the villain, I get it, but that's still pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. It's just a shame that we only get to see him for such a short amount of time.
I think the problem is that they try to make it a last-minute twist that he's working for the Empire.
They show off him as a Dark Knight a couple times, and Maria's like, that voice, I recognize him, but they don't reveal it until the very end.
Yeah, like, I think what would have been better is if, when you first see him, it's Leon, and he's not even hiding the fact that it's Leon.
Yeah, that would have made it a lot more interesting, because then the party would have to grapple with their feelings of, this is my friend, but he's also the bad guy. But I feel like that would be a little too complex for an NES game.
Yeah, it would, fair enough. And they would try to do stuff more like that later.
Oh, okay.
But
interesting. I feel like this game could do with a real, like, entire from the ground up reboot.
A proper remake, kind of like what they're doing at FF7 right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Honestly, or FF4 and what we're going to see next with 3, actually, I'd agree with that.
Okay.
Because 3 and 4 are like full up remakes, which is pretty cool.
Oh, cool. Perfect.
So, yeah, honestly, like FF2 getting a legitimate remake with a new script, expanded story stuff, that actually could be pretty fun. Because just another thing, like we talked earlier about, like, this is kind of where a lot of FF tropes started.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually a common trope in Square games, period, where you have kind of like the edgy party member.
He's the Vincent of the party.
He's the Vincent Valentine. I think like the most direct comparison I would actually make is from Chrono Trigger with Magus.
So this is why you wanted to talk about him. This is why you were so interested.
Look, okay, I just want to talk about the Magus, okay?
But yeah, I agree. He's the outsider of the party, because even the guest characters, like, they fit in better than Leon did.
Yeah, because like Leon was straight up the villain, sort of like Magus was.
Like, all of your guest characters were all rebels, just like you. And now we've got Leon, who is not a rebel, and he is the bad guy. So it's very interesting.
Like, I think the way Magus does it is cooler, because Magus is the coolest. Shut up.
Magus is cooler, because
he's the coolest.
He floats, dude. He can fly. He can literally fly. Makes him cooler.
He can fly. He has a scythe. He's probably a vampire.
He starts with better magic than Leon.
He's useful.
But so this is the first edgy character in the Square games.
Yeah, like the Final Fantasy games that have like party members like this and a lot of other games. Like you got Shadow in FF6.
Okay.
Vincent in 7. Though, like, I would actually argue I don't think Vincent's a very edgy character. He's just kind of more sad.
Well, sometimes that can be interpreted as edgy, but I'm sure is there an edgy character in 9 as well?
Yes, okay. It's Amaranth.
The guy, he kind of looks like what's his name from Street Fighter? The electric guy, not
Blanca.
Blanca, yes. I knew it started with a B. I think I've seen a picture.
Yeah, it's I'm pretty sure it's been a while since 9, but Amaranth, I think is how you pronounce that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's kind of in 10 you have Auron.
Okay, I know nothing about 10, so
10-2 you got. In 10-2 was the worst example because the character's name is literally Pain.
Perfect. His name is actually just Pain. Where's the character that's just named Blood?
Her name, it's a her, by the way, thank you. It's Payne.
Oh, perfect.
I love it.
That's great.
It is mid-2000s.
Just the perfect, like, 2005 edge.
It's like, oh, give me all that Evanescence bullshit.
Fucking bring me to life.
But yeah, it's like Leon was the first of that type of a character.
Okay. And you mentioned a lot of this stuff, a lot of this narrative stuff is the groundworks for most of the other games. I can't say the same.
Like a lot of
I haven't
FFs.
played any of them.
A lot of FFs are like groups of rebels going to fight an empire and then fighting a divine being. Like, it's kind of a meme at this point.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
This is...
Because I do know that in 7, you start out as eco-terrorists, right? In Avalanche?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's rebels in 6. There's an evil empire in, kind of 4, but it's kind of not, and we'll get there, but...
And isn't there an evil emperor in 5 as well? The Void?
Not really. Exdeath isn't really an emperor.
He's just a big wizard.
He's Exdeath.
Oh, perfect. He's his own class.
He's a tree.
Why? That's all I know about it. Just Y in all caps with spaces in between the letters.
And the Void. Yeah, then in FF10 you have the Church, which is the big evil organization.
Oh, perfect. Also sounds like a mid-2000s Edge.
Oh, FF10 is...
Oh, I can't wait. With that laugh.
I'm looking forward.
I heard a lot of things about FF10. Some people say it's their favorite. One of my best friends says it's the worst one. I can't wait.
FF10 is gonna be nostalgic.
Oh, you've got personal ties with this one.
Oh, just give me that mid-2000s Edge, baby. Just
perfect.
Throw it at me. Oh, yeah, I want to kill God. Hell yeah. But, yeah, like, it's very interesting to see stuff like that start in 2, which... It's very much unlike stuff where, like a Castlevania 2 or Zelda 2, where for the third game, which went more back to basics, they actually took aspects from 2 and went forward with it more. In fact, I'd almost argue that FF2, as it is, has almost more impact than
the first one
in a lot of ways.
Okay. Yeah, because I noticed with the Zelda series, Zelda 2 is insanely different from Zelda 1. And then as soon as that game came out and they made the next couple ones, like Oracle of Ages and Seasons and Awakening and Link to the Past. They just found their groove and they stuck with it and they disregarded the other games. And in this one, they tried something weird, and it seems like they took all of the good parts out of it and left the bad stuff that didn't work, which is very cool.
Yeah. So if nothing else, FF2 is a really good stepping stone to where FF would go from here.
Mm-hmm. It's the way I see it.
Yeah, so I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as some people made it out to be. I'd never want to play it again, though.
I give this one a 4 out of 10. Maybe, well, a 3 out of 10, maybe a 4 out of 10.
I'd say if I had to score it, I'd give it like a 5.
5 sounds pretty fair, too. Like, this game's interesting, but only play it if you're really interested. And once you start losing interest, just go ahead and stop playing, because it's probably not going to get much better.
I'd recommend this for curiosity's sake.
Yeah. Just play it for yourself and figure it out, and see if you enjoy it or not.
Yeah, you got anything left to say on FF2?
Let me check what I wrote down. I didn't write down that much. Okay. Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, looks about we covered every topic that I wanted to. Don't know if there's much else to say.
I guess there's one thing that's not even really worth talking about, but fuck those trapdoors.
Trapdoors?
You know the ones. Those rooms.
Yeah, that's right. I wanted to bring that up, but I completely forgot. Yeah, there's the trick rooms that have absolutely no point other than to grind your stats because they have increased encounter rates.
Isn't it great?
Yeah, I mean, they considered that you might not be ready for the boss, so that you can go back and spend your time grinding so that you can change your strategy.
Yeah, on some of the toughest enemies.
Yep, the toughest enemies and increased spawn chance, and it's far, far away from any kind of healing area. Have fun.
I love it.
Have fun.
So yeah, that's literally it. That's all I gotta say on 2.
Yeah, I can't think of anything. This was the first game to have the back row system too.
It was.
Yeah, because I tried to set that up
in almost every game after this.
Oh, in every one? Okay.
Almost. There's a lot that don't, especially after FF 9 is when you start to see massive changes in the formula.
Ah, I see.
Where it's essentially the games never play like each other anymore.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I noticed this game was the first one to have the back row and the ability to target your allies and enemies with any magic. So, because in the first game, you couldn't attack your own allies and you couldn't heal the enemy. But in this game, you can attack your friends, which has the benefit of raising their stats. If you need to...
They get stronger, bro.
If you need to grind their stats, you can just attack your friends. And you can heal undead enemies to damage them.
What the fuck is this Tony Ferguson training bullshit? Be like, if I hurt myself, I'll become stronger.
I don't know. I think the way I saw it was the more times they take attacks, they know how to defend properly against them. But I don't know about that.
That's a little much.
Yeah, it's more like you gotta think of your own excuse, your own way to excuse this.
So yeah, that's all I gotta say on FF2.
Yep, I think I'm done. The game's decent.
Yeah, it's an interesting historical footnote. And next time, however, we're going to be looking at FF3, but we will not be looking at anything that remotely plays like the NES original, or sorry, a Famicom original.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're going to be looking at the FF3 remake.
The remake that came out on the Nintendo DS, but we're playing the Steam port.
I'm really looking forward to this one.
I'm looking forward to it simply because it's a different art style. I'm getting a little tired of seeing these same style sprites.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because it's gonna apparently 3 is where FF stops being jank, and we're gonna be playing a really polished version of it.
We're gonna be playing an actual game this time.
So I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah, so thank you for listening once again, and take it easy.
Yep. This was One Doomed Game Critic and Sticky Rick for another RPG chat.
Alright, take it easy.
Yep, lights.